The Hong Kong Racing Show is back for 2025, and we are back with a bang too. A huge show coming up. Happy New Year to you all. Andrew Brown and Alex Evers with you as always. Shortly, we will be joined by seven-time Hong Kong champion jockey Zac Purton. He's about to become the winningest rider in Hong Kong racing history. We're going to talk to him about that, plus much more in just a few moments. So really looking forward to Zac Purton joining us soon. Alex, Happy New Year to you. There's been plenty happening in the world of Hong Kong racing over the last couple of weeks. A lot of it has to do with Zac Purton, so we'll leave that out for now. But it was good to see Vincent Ho return from a concussion on New Year's Day.
Yeah, good to see you back. Happy New Year, first and foremost.
New Year, man.
Good to see Vincent back, and he got a double there on his first day back after suspension and injury. And these guys are so incredible. They just take falls and come right back, strong as ever. And happy to see that for him. The Boombox and Divas 12 at a price too for the punters out there.
Yeah, I think he was about 20-1, wasn't he? But that run from the Boombox, he was a bit shorter. I think he was only 2 or 3-1, but 131 pounds on his back, drawn wide in 10, and was last at the turn. So it was a great ride from Vincent and a really eye-catching run.
Yep, he can ride. He's talented.
And Alex, the other one I wanted to ask you about before we get joined by Zac Purton was just a few months after the official retirement of Golden 60. It was nice to see Francis Liu back in the headlines with another potential star miler, Patch of Theatre, who was the emphatic winner of the Group 3, I should say, Chinese Club Challenge Cup on New Year's Day as well.
Yeah, and good to see the ISG horses coming out of the same Hong Kong sale as Romantic Warrior. Not the exact same sale, but the same sale that presents the horses to the Hong Kong owners. Good to see them have some success, and can't wait for that sale again. Actually, I got pictures of him going through the ring a few years ago there. But he's progressed in the rankings, and I think he'll make an impact on the Stewards Cup a little bit.
Yeah, on January 19, potentially his next target, the Group 1 Stewards Cup, where he could take on the likes of last month's Hong Kong mile winner Voyage Bubble. So that will be an absolute cracker if that happens. Time to welcome in our very special guest who has been ringing in the new year in more ways than one as he chases the record for the most wins ever by a jockey in Hong Kong. I'm talking about seven-time champion jockey Zac Purton. Zac, thank you for joining us and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be on the show.
I mentioned ringing in the new year. The Jockey Club, of course, wheeling out a bell for you to ring at Sha Tin after every winner you ride as you chase Douglas Whyte's record. How much additional fun did this inject into your New Year's Day, Zac?
Yeah, it was a bit of fun, actually. I wasn't sure how it would feel, but it was nice getting off the horse and ringing the bell after those winners, and it was good to have the family there as well. And Cash got up and had his little turn at ringing it, and we get to change the number, and I think it adds a little bit of drama and theatre to what's going on. And I've told all the other boys if they want to come out and watch me ring it, they're welcome to do that too.
We're talking about Cash helping you ring, I think, after your second or third winner. Any thoughts about asking the Jockey Club to package this up as a souvenir when it's all said and done, putting it in your house so that he can keep ringing it every time Dad rides a winner?
Well, I'm not sure about letting him keep ringing it. We might take the rattle out of the bell when it gets home, but I haven't thought of that. It'd be quite nice, actually, to have it here, so I might I'll put that to them.
One of your New Year's Days winners was How Deep Is Your Love, who beat Magic Control. I think this was the first time you rang the bell, if I remember correctly. Recording his first win at group level. Awesome ride. What took you so long to get back on this John Size trainee, Zac?
Yeah, you'd have to ask the ownership group what went on there. I'm not sure. I won his first race on him at Happy Valley a fair while ago now, actually, and I haven't been able to get on him since. It's been over a couple of seasons, and I don't know how many runs, but I've had to wait patiently for another opportunity. And he's got to a point where, he's racing against our best sprinters here in Hong Kong, and he's probably just a tad below them, but that was his opportunity to win a group race. And, when they get those opportunities, they've got to make the most of it, and he did that, so it was a good, strong win.
Was that one of your winners on New Year's Eve, Alex? Alex was watching the races New Year's Eve our time here in North America, Zach.
That actually was one of the few winners that I had on the card. And when you went to the Windmill Whip, I was very happy to see you lift that horse home. We had a New Year's party. We had a bunch of people watching the race. We had a couple people that were on that horse, so it was a lot of fun. And happy to see you ring the bell.
Well, I struggled to get past Magic Control on another John Size trained horse up the straight at his previous start, and I thought it was going to be the same scenario again. As I got to him, he just seems to keep lifting Magic Control, and he's a hard horse to get past, so it was a good effort to finally get him on the line.
He's really nice at 1,000 meters there. He's kind of specialized at that distance at Sha Tin since being there from Australia.
He's got plenty of speed, and he's got that tenacity now as well, so he's racing with a bit of confidence, and whenever a horse is full of confidence, they're always hard to get past.
There's talk he'll go to Dubai, Zach, for the Al Quoz, a race California Spangle won last year. Given you used to ride the Spangle early in his career, do you think How Deep Is Your Love has the same sort of potential?
I think Spangle was certainly racing at a different level than what How Deep Is Your Love is at the moment. He was a proper Group 1 horse, and I thought he was always going to love the straight there. I actually talked Tony into taking him there to Dubai for the Al Quoz, and I was meant to go and ride him, but unfortunately Brenton Abdallah won on him the start before here in Hong Kong and kept the ride, so I missed that opportunity, but hopefully I can make up for it on this horse if he goes and I go with him. I'm not sure what the plan is.
That'd be awesome to see you in Dubai.
Would that be one of the few Zac Purton celebration races, a Grade 1 in Dubai?
Possibly, you don't know. I don't get caught up in the emotion too often, as you know, but I haven't been to Dubai on a horse that's had a chance yet. I've been there a few times, but never on a horse that was actually in the market or one that I thought was capable of winning. So it would be nice to get there one day with a horse that had a realistic chance.
Obviously, you've had so much success now, but how difficult was it when you got to Hong Kong for the first time to learn the system and get the rides and learn kind of the whole ecosystem of Hong Kong racing?
Yeah, it was really difficult coming from Australia and many other parts of the world. We rely on our managers to source our rides and, basically book the horses that we're going to ride. And we just turn up on race day. We do our form, turn up on race day and do our job. But over here, you've got to do so much more, and I really struggled with that in the early part of my career here, and it wasn't until some of the trainers' wives were telling Nicole, why doesn't Zach ring for rides? Every other jockey does. If he doesn't show his enthusiasm to want to ride these horses, then the trainers are just not going to put him on because these other jockeys are hungry and he doesn't look as if he is. So I had to get on the phone, and it was uncomfortable asking for rides, chasing rides, but it's the way the system works here. And, as well as that, you've got to understand the rating system, horses going up and down through the grades in the ratings. You got to understand, where they're at in their preparation, how the trainers like to train them, when they might be peaking through their preparation, all those things, and build relationships with our old dogs on his last legs, unfortunately, making a bit of noise over there. But, you got to build relationships with not just the trainers but the owners as well. So there's a lot that goes into it, and, you're not going to learn that on day one. That takes time. I certainly feel like when you do get the hang of things and you are getting the success, you've worked so hard for it, that it feels more rewarding.
When you first got to Hong Kong, Zach, you were riding against what they'll call a jockey colony here in the North America that was just sensational. I mean, some of the names that were there, like Beedman and Preble, and I mean, the list goes on. How much did riding against such an incredible crop of other jockeys like fine-tune all of your skills and put you where you are today?
Yeah, it was a bit of a who's who of the world jockeys at that stage. If I can remember the list clearly, there was Douglas Whyte, Brett Preble, Olivier Deleuze, Eric Saint-Martin, Gerald Mosse, Anthony Delpeche, Glenn Boss and Kevin Shea arrived when I arrived. Danny Nicklick was here. Darren Beedman arrived just after me because I hit in Australia about a month after. Shane Dye, and there's Felix Kutzi. So a lot of those jockeys had been here for 10 or 15 years and they were well established. So why are they going to put on a young guy who they haven't really heard about it, that they don't know over these guys that they've seen and used for the last decade, and they know what they're going to get and who they are, and they have relationships with them. So it was really hard for me, and I didn't have a manager at that time either. The jockey club now, when you arrive, they give you a manager for the first 2 or 3 months. So he goes and takes you around and introduces you to the trainers and sort of breaks that ice a little bit for you, and then he's booking the rides for you, and he's teaching you about the system and how things work. So it's a little bit easier for jockeys when they come in here now to get going. But in those days when I arrived, it was really hard. But I learned a lot off all those jockeys. I sat across from Brett Preble, who was fighting out the championship with Douglas Whyte in those early years, and I just seen the look and determination on his face and how he went about things, and he was good in some of the advice that he gave me. But then just watching the other guys and the way that they ride and the different styles and what works and what doesn't, and I just it was like I was absorbing everything. And and then in more recent times, Christoph Sumion would come in as well, and Ryan Moore would come in. We've had Buick here, Frankie Dettori, Lemaire, and then you get the Japanese Itaki Taki and King Kawada, and some of the American riders come. So it's a great place to learn and study off of the greatest jockeys in my era.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned Brett Preble there, and you equaled a record of his on Boxing Day, I think it was, with a 6-timer. Congratulations on that. Just the second jockey in history to achieve that, and the first, if I'm not mistaken, on a night meeting and at Happy Valley. Did you go into that card confident you were going to be having a big night, or is Happy Valley just such a great leveler that you can never be too cocky when you're riding there?
You can never be too confident when you go into the valley. It's a really tricky track, and we're on the C course, so it's even tighter and more narrow, and so many things can go wrong. You can be in the right place at one stage of the race, and 50 metres later you're in the wrong place just because of a move that's happened, or the pace of the race changing, or something happening in front of you, and it's just so hard to get into the right spot and then remain sort of trouble-free throughout the running of a race there, and that really is the key to it. You can be on an average horse but draw the right gate and get the right run, and you're a chance to win. And you can be on the best horse, and clearly the best horse, but you draw the wrong gate, the pace goes against you, and you've got no chance to win. So it's so hard to ride a winner there, and it's even harder to ride multiple winners. But yeah, everything seemed to fall into place except for the last race. I was spewing. I drew barrier 12 of 12 on a horse that I knew I had to go back on, and there was no speed in the race. So I was going out there frustrated. I didn't have the opportunity to ride 7, but we got close. He stormed home, but just too late.
The Valley is a wild place, man. It's that IJC night too. Like, it's got to be incredible for you guys to ride against some of the best jockeys around the world on essentially what's supposed to be a neutral playing field. You guys have a home field advantage, obviously knowing the track a little bit better. But that just seems like a brilliant night of competition for a competitive guy like yourself.
It's a great track. It's actually, those races can actually be a little bit more tricky because the riders don't ride here on a regular basis like the ones that are based here do. So the pace of the race can change a little bit more. The jockeys sort of are a little bit hesitant to take off at a certain period of the race, or they might wait a little bit longer, or they're not in the position you'd expect the horse to be in, and they're sort of not taking the gaps when other jockeys would because they're not used to presenting at that stage of the race. So it adds another element of difficulty to that night in those races, whereas the guys that are riding here every week, they're sort of in the zone, in the routine, in the rhythm of the races. So it's not as easy as it looks from the grandstand, but it's great riding against everyone because like I say, I always watch and study them and learn a lot and respect how good they are and what they can do.
I was talking to Bill Nader the other day, Zach, and he said some people might go off and have PhD in astronomy or whatever else you get PhDs in. But he goes, it's Zac Purton. He has a PhD in horse racing and race riding, and he goes and he's unequaled. And I mean, it just obviously goes to show when you can go to Happy Valley and pull out a 6-timer as well. But I thought that was interesting what Bill Nader had to say.
Yeah, they're very kind comments from him, and I suppose they echo some of the comments that other people say as well. That Hong Kong is more than just riding a horse in a race, but obviously here things happen so fast and things can change so much that you have to be so alert all the time. But there's so much that goes into that race before you get there in terms of form and preparing and things like that. Whereas I don't think other parts of the world are at the level that we are at. Especially say in America on the dirt ride, it's just flat out the gates, just speed and stamina, just run. And they don't mind sitting wide and things like that. So you probably don't really need to do any form. All you're doing is getting out the gates as fast as you can, maybe staying out of the kickback and keep rolling. And Japan is on turf, but it's a little bit similar. They just sort of roll out the gates, roll along into a position. They don't mind being 3-4 wide, come with big sweeping runs instead of racing tight and looking for gaps and saving ground and things like that. And then in Europe, you might have smaller fields. Once again, they go slow, but they build the pace up, a long way from home, and things aren't happening as quick in races there as what they are here. So I think tactically it's sort of on steroids here compared to other parts of the world.
Where did you develop that? I don't know. I call it your windmill style, but when you go to the stick on the left hand, and it's like your body and your core and your legs never move, and your arm just does this. But these horses like jump out of the ground. It's incredible to watch. You had a couple on Sunday like that look hopeless at the 200, and the next thing you know, they find an extra gear. Is that something you've always had, or you've developed that since being in Hong Kong? Or
I think that's an Australian thing, an Australian style, right? A lot of jockeys sort of rode in that way as I was coming up, and that's just the way that we've done it. And there was no whip restriction back then, so you're able to sort of to ride in that way. But my seat and my style on a horse, my thought process has always been, and the analogy I use is if you've got a backpack on your back and you're running with the backpack and it's loose and bouncing around everywhere, it pulls you out of rhythm and you don't seem to be able to run as smoothly. Whereas if it's really tight and really still, you can run more effectively. So I've always had that train of thought with the way that I ride. If I can be as still as I can in the saddle, then the horses can sort of stride more fluently without being pulled out of rhythm or off balance. Now, other people might think differently, but in Europe and France and South Africa, they seem to bounce all over them a lot more, and they're just as effective in the way that they ride. But that's just the way that I've thought about it. But then, the whip, it's just a natural rhythm for me. Yeah. So, and it's really hard when I go to other jurisdictions to ride, and I've got to think about how many times I'm hitting the horse and where I am in the race and things like that, because it takes your focus a little bit off actually riding the race, because you've got this little gremlin hanging over your shoulder saying 1, 2, 3. It becomes quite stressful.
I think as Gary Stevens says that he likes to think that, or used to think about having a glass of champagne on his back when he was riding, and he didn't want to tip over the champagne. But anyway, similar analogy to the backpack, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's similar, and he's I've heard him in some interviews refer to the pushing, the way that he uses his hands and arms as like a pump, so he sort of pumps away at them. So the American and South American riders are very pretty in the way that they sit on a horse.
Yeah. Speaking of pump, I was going to ask you too, with ringing this bell, of course, you're married to Nicole, who's a daughter of Jim Cassidy, a legendary Australian jockey known as the Pumper. And he used to have a pretty famous catchphrase after he won a big race or a Group 1, ring-a-ding-ding, Pumper's the king. Has there been a little bit of a ring-a-ding-ding, Purton's the king that's sort of you wanted to say now that you're ringing that bell?
Yeah, ring-a-ding-ding, there's a new king.
Hey! I love it. So just 11 wins away now, Zac, from the all-time record, 10 to equal. You brought up win number 1800 the other day. What's it going to mean to you when this happens sometime over the next few weeks, hopefully?
Yeah, well, it would mean a lot. It just means that I've had a lot of support and been given a lot of opportunities, and with that, of course, you have to make the most of them. But I've been very lucky in my time here. I've ridden for some great owners, some great trainers, ridden some great horses. I've had a lot of fun doing it. I've always enjoyed Hong Kong. I love the city. It's fast paced. It's vibrant. It's ruthless. I love that part about it as well. So it keeps you on your toes all the time. But it's very rewarding, and I've had a great career, far better than I ever could have dreamed of, and it's something I'm very proud of. I haven't been thinking too much about the record, but obviously now we're getting closer to it, and I'm starting to ring the bell that it's becoming more realistic, and it's just a matter of time. It's going to happen, and hopefully I can knock it over in the next couple of meetings, but a couple of weeks would be good, and then from then on it'll be a new record every meeting.
Hopefully you do it when I'm there so I can take pictures of it. That would be a fun thing to photograph.
Better get on the plane quickly.
I know. Yeah, I'm looking at the 19th. I'm looking at your record and my flights, and it's not looking good for me.
There's only 11 races, only 11 wins to go. But it's an 11 race card coming up next. You better get on the plane now, Alex.
I've been trying since the beginning of the season, like figure out when it's going to be and look at my schedule and the grade ones and if it's going to line up or not. I didn't expect you to hit this, get it this close this soon. I was thinking more February, beginning of February, but it's looking like middle of January maybe.
Yeah, I don't like to muck around. When I got something to do, I got to do it.
If you could on your highlights reel, Zac, let's say the news are broadcasting that you've just become Hong Kong's winningest rider, and they can only include 5 of your wins from over the years in Hong Kong. Can you let us know what those 5 wins might be?
Yeah. So the top 3 is pretty easy. I would say from this year or last year, we've just ticked over, haven't we? The Derby on Massive Sovereign, I thought that was a really exciting race and a great win. You don't see horses make up that much ground that late in a race, especially in that race and win. So that was very exciting. That was very good. And that horse was actually born on the same day or birth date, the 8th of February, as my son Cash, which is a little bit ironic. Beauty Generation, when he won the International Mile by 5 lengths. Well, he was 5 lengths in front until Easy and Down. He absolutely smashed a world-class field that day, and that was probably the most impressive win I've been a part of. Aero Velocity, when he won his last Hong Kong Sprint, he'd been such a great horse to us, having gone to Japan and won there, and Singapore as well, and what he'd done here in Hong Kong. And we actually thought he was past his best, and he was sort of in the twilight zone, and we were sort of ready to retire him. And like all great horses do, he just pulled that one run out of nowhere to a certain degree to win again. So that was fantastic. But outside of those 3, it sort of filters into one into another. So we'll leave it at 3, at those 3.
Okay. Ka Ying Rising's not going to slip in there just yet?
Well, he's got a bit of work to do. He's obviously very exciting. It was great when he broke the track record. He was airborne at that time, but he's early on in his career, and he's got a lot to do. And hopefully he puts in one of those sort of wow moments like he did when he broke the track record in a big Group 1 race. So that's his job, and hopefully that's going to be something that he can achieve.
You just mentioned Aero Velocity then, Zac, and I may have mentioned this to you at the IJC media conference, but he was 8 when you won your second Hong Kong Sprint on him. I think I asked you if Ka Ying Rising's lining up in a Hong Kong Sprint as an 8-year-old, are you still going to be on his back? And you talked a little bit about your body and your health. Where are you at the moment in terms of your body and your health?
Well, I'm in the best shape I've been in 3 years. Since I had that fall in the Hong Kong Sprint 3 years ago, my hip's been terrible. There's some days I just can't walk. I get home from the races and I just would lie on the floor and stare at the roof, and I was just in agony, popping pills, just trying to numb and dull the pain so I could get up the next day and try and go again. It was horrible. And so many mornings I wasn't even going to track work there for a while because I just needed the break in between. I was just turning up on race day and spending all my time at physio in between. So I was at a point where I just didn't think I could go on any longer. It was getting the better of me. But for whatever reason, recently it seemed to settle down a lot. It's still a little bit sore, but it's nothing compared to what it was. But I also know, being an athlete, it can flare back up at any stage. So, if that's to happen, then that will call time on it. But at the moment, we'll just make the most of it while we can.
Okay, well, so we may still see you on the back of Karting Rising in the 2027.
I don't know if I'll have any hair left by then.
I've noticed in various photos of you at track work and things over the years that you like to wear the odd American sports team caps. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I've seen a Buffalo Bills cap on you. Are they your NFL team? And if so, do you have a favourite Bills player?
Josh Allen, love him. Yeah, he's very good. But he plays for the Bulls, right? But he's a great player. But I have a hat for every team. I'm not really a loyal supporter, right? But I love watching the game, and we have games on here on a Monday and Tuesday morning mostly. So I sort of watch those games, and quite often I'll be at physio or over there getting a massage, and I'll be watching on the phone while that's happening, or we get on the screen over there. But yeah, I love Mahomes. I love Josh Allen. I actually enjoyed watching Enigma recently with Aaron Rodgers. I thought that was,
cool.
It was very. I sort of to get to know the guy off the field as well as on the field, and I thought he's a very interesting person, so he was good. And I've listened to him on the Joe Rogan podcast before, but Jackson's good. There's so many great players within that game, and they're so talented. I love the tactical side of it. There's a real strategy to it, so yeah, I enjoy watching it.
What do you think of the Detroit Lions?
Oh, airborne. How good are they going?
There we go.
Yeah, love the coach.
There we go. I knew you were going to beat that question.
I love how confident he is. He backs his players. He doesn't listen to the outside noise. He's great. Yeah. I actually had that hat on yesterday.
Attaboy.
Strangely enough, both Alex and I are Detroit Lions supporters. I'm by default because my wife is from Detroit. Alex, how did you get into the Lions?
I was a Detroit Red Wings fan as a little kid when I played hockey growing up, and they were one of the better teams. Everyone called me a front runner. And so when I got into football in middle school, I was like, fine, I'll support the Lions as well. They're one of the worst teams in the league. No one will ever call me a front runner again. And it's been a long, long, long road to a winning season.
Yeah. Well, it's good that we're not necessarily going to have to beat your Buffalo Bills then, Zach, because you have a hat for every team to get into the Super Bowl. But that could be a likely matchup, couldn't it?
That'd be great if it was. So, we'll see. It gets interesting now, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It gets.
I've watched on Amazon Prime. I watched I think it's called Face Off, the one on the ice hockey as well.
That was incredible.
I thought that was really good. I love sport, right? I like being in the locker room. When I first got into NFL, I watched All or Nothing when they were doing their series, and they started with the Arizona Cardinals, and they did the Eagles, and all the other teams that they did. And I just love being inside the locker room, seeing how they operate, and I like to understand how the coach, portrays his message, gets his message across. So I'm just a sports lover.
The psychology of sports, though, and the mental toughness. I mean, as a jockey, it's the highs and the lows, and it's never too high, never too low, but you're always going to have ups and you're always going to have downs, and it's how these guys deal with it and the mental preparation, and it's same with me. I love getting inside that stuff.
Given you're such a big fan of American sports, Zach, do you think you might like to maybe ride in America one day and get in an American jockey's room, maybe a Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, for example, in November?
I'd love to take part in a Breeders' Cup for sure. Unfortunately, our horses in Hong Kong don't go over there. And I actually spoke to Bill Nader about doing a stint in America when he was the director of racing over here. In our off season, going over there and doing a stint somewhere, and he sort of did look into it a little bit for me. And in the end, I sort of decided against it for a couple of reasons. But I would like to get a feel for it and be a player in it. And I don't know.
Brownie's got a horse you might be able to ride in the Del Mar Derby.
Yeah. We'll try and make it work.
I do. I'll get you on a horse called Ironman Cal. He just ran second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf to an Aidan O'Brien horse called Henri Matisse. You can ride him. Oh, sorry, Antonio Fraser. No, you got first.
Well, he's going to get the ride back anyway. I can't stay on it forever.
Zach, I would love to get you, Zach, over. Actually, the week before the new Hong Kong season starts, Pacific Classic Day is here at Del Mar, just near where Alex and I live, and Hong Kong bet on it. The Hong Kong Jockey Club bet on 3 races on it, so it'd be awesome to get a Hong Kong jockey over riding on that card. Maybe you can be the man.
Why not? You got to start at the top, eh?
You don't need any form. Just go to the front. Go fast and stay.
Easy. You can be out there every time I get on a horse and I'll say, what do I do? Just go to the front.
That's it.
Zach, before we let you go, a couple of good rides on the weekend too. Wunderbar, I'm very interested in, who's in one of the feature races. Do you think he can bounce back into the winner's circle?
Well, I hope so. On face value, he was pretty disappointing last time. I know I drew wide and it was always going to be hard from the gate, but I felt like I got into a great position the way the race was run. The pace was on. They were, nearly a second inside of standard through that midsection. I was able to come back 3 wide cover midfield. I actually had the winner inside me during the run, and when I peeled out to go, he didn't go, and the winner then pushed me out and left me for dead. But maybe Wunderbar's better up on speed rolling. That might be his asset. So from the better draw, hopefully he can bounce back.
Nice. And you're on a couple of Car Yings as well, a Car Ying Radiance and a Car Ying Victory. You give either of them a hope?
Car Radiance I haven't been on, so I don't know too much about him other than what I see, but he looks like he's got some ability. No star, but he'll be able to put himself well here in Hong Kong, hopefully. And Car Victory is drawn the wrong side of the track. He's drawn low, and the outside rail, when we don't have the false rail up, is like dynamite. So I've got to somehow try and manoeuvre my way over that way if I can, but in a big field it can sometimes be difficult to do that. But he should have won up the straight 2 starts back when I rode him. I got held up badly, no luck, never got out. So he gets his chance to atone. He just needs things to go his way.
Right. Well, thank you, and you'll keep chipping away at that record. As we said, just 11 wins to go now, 10 to equal. Enjoy the next few weeks. We just want to acknowledge just how much joy I think you give us as racing fans in North America as well, just watching you week in, week out in Hong Kong. And it is just a privilege to be able to watch you and all that kind of stuff as well without getting too emotional about things. And I'm sure Alex will probably want to say something similar as well.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of being when I was a kid in high school and Lafitte Pinkai was going for the record, and I'd run home from school every day and try to catch the last couple of races from Hollywood Park to see what he did. I've been watching every meet, seeing, tracking, and again, trying to line that up with if I'm going to be there or not.
Oh, that's great to hear. I appreciate the support, and it's great that we're now, got a bigger foothold in America, and that everyone over there can, get to sample and see what we're made of over here, and hopefully try and build our brand a little bit bigger. But it's good that we've got the support, and like I said, I always appreciate that. Thank you.
Our thanks to Zac Purton for joining us. What an absolute legend he is. Time now to find you a winner or two at Sha Tin this weekend. The feature race on the card is the Pak Tam Chung Handicap, which is race 3. over the mile on the dirt. Number 1, Sword Point. He won on the dirt 3 back at his first attempt on the surface. 3, Capital Delight, was beaten by Sword Point on that occasion. Not everything went his way on that day. 7, Turin Mascot, was in the same race and was third. And 8, Yellowfish, has plenty of speed to burn. He may get caught wide, though, as we look at the all-important speed map, which has Telecom Fighters calling the shots. Alex, who do you like in this one?
Right now, the more I looked at it, I like Call Me Glorious' first run on the dirt. He ran really well. Another horse for Francis. He comes in with a little bit of lightweight. Sword Point gets that huge class relief coming out of the Romantic Warrior race. That Romantic Warrior form seems to travel everywhere it goes. Those horses run really well. Another one I'm kind of into in this one is Mr. Ascendancy for Karis Teton. He runs really well on that all-weather dirt track. Capital Light for me, it just seems maybe a bit too far. He's more of a 1200 than a 1650. What about you, Brownie?
I'm with Capital Delight.
Sorry to talk badly about your horse, mate.
It's all good. Has only had that one attempt over the track and trip behind Sword Point that I mentioned, but just couldn't get a clear crack at them, I thought, that day. And so with the smaller field, shouldn't run into those problems. And I feel like he moves over the dirt nicely. So I'm willing to roll the dice and go with Capital Delight in that one. The other feature race on the card is a little later, race 7. And I'm going to go with Wunderbar, who was caught pretty wide last out. And his rider, Zac Purton, gave us a nice little leg up, I thought, prior, about his chances of bouncing back into the winner's circle. I'm making Wunderbar my best bet on the card. Alex, do you like anything in that race? And have you got a best bet for us?
Yeah, you should get a price on him, too. That was actually interesting to hear Zach say that he might be one that wants to just roll forward and go at a faster clip instead of being held up a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see what he does from barrier 2. Those are a bunch of usual suspects we've been talking about. And to be honest, man, like, I've been terrible at punting. I had to wear the glasses to look a little bit smarter because I can't buy a winner right now. But I actually, in this race, I'm going to stick with Gorgeous Win. I just like this horse. He's done well for me, and he comes running late. But this race has a ton of horses, too, to keep an eye on. Like, if Wonderbar doesn't fire, Swift Ascend, Raging Blizzard, who won last out, Coparter Prance has a ton of talent. He's just carrying high weight. I don't know. This is going to be a really interesting race. And I think this is your chance to get your price on Wonderbar.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for me. Good night of racing. Saturday night, Sha Tin. Zac Purton will continue to chip away at that record. It was great to have him on the show earlier. I think race 1 on Saturday nights around 8:30 p.m. Pacific, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. Really looking forward to that card. Really looking forward to your company for the rest of the season on the Hong Kong Racing Show. Alex, thanks again for joining us. Great show.
Awesome. So good. I love talking to these guys. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. So we're looking forward to having plenty more guests on for the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us, as I mentioned, and we'll see you next time on the Hong Kong Racing Show.